I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies, and I'm not proud of my address.
We're not just building muscle, we're building men. In the quiet hours, in the unfiltered moments, in the conversations that happen before the world wakes up. This is the Gloom, where brotherhood forms in the dark so we can lead in the light, where vulnerability is strength and leadership is handed from man to man, one story at a time. Our mission is to empower, exhort, and inspire men to achieve their best selves through stories of reinvigorated male community leadership. We bring you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha PAX, ordinary men doing extraordinary things in fitness, fellowship, faith, and leadership, because we believe that every man has a story, and reinvigoration starts when that story is shared. This is the Glue in the Gloom. Shout out to our sponsors, Avior Wealth Management, Liberty Core Real Estate, Major Team Mortgage, Exclusively Eye Care, Omaha Laser Dentistry, and McNamara Law Firm. We appreciate your support. Are you or someone you know in the market to buy a new home? Well, if so, check out Major Team Mortgage. They specialize in home purchase and refinance home loans. Their mission is to purposely empower people to experience their good life through building wealth with real estate. You know, showing up in the Gloom is no different than showing up for a conversation around your future of building wealth with real estate. Join the action economy and get in the game with Sasquatch. Text or call John at 402-212-0149 to schedule a time today. Individual NMLS number 1393750. Company NMLS number 2478164. Equal housing lender. What's it like to love your dentist? Well, you're about to find out, where healthy smiles go beyond your teeth. No drilling, no needles, and no anxiety. Relax. It's Omaha Laser Dentistry. Welcome to better. At Omaha Laser Dentistry, Dr. Bullenparty uses the Solea laser, a CO2 laser that's used in all of his day-to-day patient care. He provides thorough exams, assessments, and treatments for things like snoring, tethered tissue, and extractions like wisdom teeth, as well as other surgeries. Check him out today at omahalaserdentistry.com. Discounts may be available for F3 Omaha members. Now, let's get back to the Gloom. In 5, 4...
And we're back to the Gloom podcast. This is Gator and Plague, and we're talking to Pitchfork. Thanks for coming. We're excited to talk to you, and we'll start off by asking you the question about your first workout. Tell us who EH'd you, who brought you out, and how that first workout went, and how you got your name.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity, and so. As I'm preparing for this, I don't think there's one specific person that really kind of EH'd me, but there's kind of a collection of people that kind of pushed me over that ledge. So I have to start off with probably Double Dip first. So Double Dips has some relation to my brother, Jackson 5. And so we'd have some mutual birthday parties together. And so he'd always kind of get us together and kind of give us the whole pitch and say, you guys are ready for this. You need to join this. And we both kind of look at each other being like, this guy's crazy. Like, he's a fit guy, and so we just really took advantage of what he was kind of bringing to the table, but it kind of made us think about things initially. And that was probably at least a good year and a half before we kind of jumped in. And then as time comes on, more people kind of jumped onto there. We had kind of a catch up business / social meeting with Bambi and having a conversation. Then usually it's a little bit about work. And then we jumped into probably some F3 stuff for about 15, 20 minutes. And kind of really made me think, personally, I'm like, I'm not ready for this journey yet, or these exercises, that's a little too intense for me. In my mind, just like everyone else, you find out over time, they're like, I could get in shape to join F3. And so I said, I'll think about it. And he sent a nice text message afterwards. And looking back on it, it was kind of a very sincere kind of invite. It wasn't one of those things like, oh, you should join this, or, you'd be a better person to join this. There's something out of, I got a lot of stuff out of this in life, and I want you to experience it as well. And so again, these things kind of weighing on me. We're in a kind of a Bible study together with Chippendale, and all of a sudden he was kind of mentioned, I'm with this, you should join this. But really, the two people that sold it was Jackson 5. He went out and probably I want to say in August or July. And then my wife actually went out for FIA. And so all these people are kind of in this corner of like cheering me on. You got to do this. And so
Yeah.
finally, it was probably December, like a Thursday, Friday in December. My brother calls me up and he's like, okay, no more kind of, dicking around. I want you to come out Saturday. It's at Hallock Park. It's the pit. And so I'm like, well, again, I have no excuse. I have nothing going on Saturday. And so I wake up at, 5:15, groggy, get in the car, I'm driving. Halfway there, I'm like, oh, I gotta use the bathroom. All these excuses go in my head. And so I show up and it's like 30-mile winds. It's freezing out. I show up with a water bottle. And I'm like, where do I put my water? Where do I put all my stuff at? And everyone's kind of looking at me. And these guys are getting out running. And just, this flood of, doubt goes to your head. Like, what am I doing here? But I did it. It was, I think Firewalker was on the queue.
Hmm.
And I think it was like a string of pearls. And it had to do a lot of, I think we did some motivators. We did some dark web things too. But it was pretty intense workout. But in my mind, I had a couple guys that really kind of did some good mumble chatter during the runs. It kind of kept my mind off the pain I was going through, the lack of lung capacity. And so got through that whole workout. And I was like, man, that wasn't too bad. I mean, I'm going to be sore the next couple of days, but it wasn't like what I thought it was. I think there's a couple guys that were injured. They were kind of taking some time that kind of tailed back and, just true to Sarpy and everywhere else, they came back to the 6 and, that kind of resonated with me that first workout. They, kept as a group, stayed as a group, and, nobody was better than the next person.
I love it. I do have to go back, and I'll try not to give you too much crap for being a twin, but so you and your twin brother are at a birthday party with Double Dip and Fun Dip, who are also twins. Were there other sets of twins there at this party, or no? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Tell us about.
No Plague.
Sorry, this is where my mind went. I'm like,
it's not a twin convention.
I do think there's something special and cool about having a twin brother, and I don't know. I have to ask you that, and maybe people don't realize that Jackson 5 and you are twins, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to do a couple workouts where we dress the same, but it worked out for a while. But eventually, that some guys are like, oh, you got different shoes on, but it's something that's kind of funny. I'll go down to Sarpy. I was down there this week for the flag pass for Mount Olympus, and eventually I go half and half. Sometimes I kind of play along that I'm Jackson 5. They'll kind of say, hey, how you doing? And finally, eventually, be like, what's your name again?
Yeah.
And I did that with longboard one time. We were doing dips alongside, and he's like, hey man, what's your name again?
Yeah.
And his head kind of drops, and he's just kind of like, longboard just worked out yesterday.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'm Pitchfork. And he's like, oh my God, now I feel better about that thing. But that happens quite a bit. And, we kind of feed into that a little bit. And it's a nice thing because he'll come up here and then people kind of recognize him as myself. Yeah. But, he's kind of got the South region taken care of. I got the Central. And so,
yeah, we didn't check his ID before he started this podcast.
We're
so
pretty sure
we could be, we're
way better looking twins. So, yeah. I got references.
So tell us how you got the name Pitchfork.
Yeah. So again, a flood of comments kind of came up with the name and kind of said my profession, kind of said, I'm brothers with Jackson 5. I think they threw out Nicky 6 out there. Thought that would be a cool nickname. But as we're kind of digging deep, they said, what was your first job? And in my head, I think I was in early high school. I worked at a place called the Spaghetti Factory in Kearney.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just kind of worked teller. And I was like, I don't want to say anything with Noodle. Who knows what I can kind of be? And I was like, oh, I grew up on a farm. We lived in town, but I had a farm outside of town. And so I was hired man for my grandpa. So, grunt work, laying pipe, things like that. So I said, my first job as a farmer, and then somebody threw out Pitchfork. I can't exactly say who. It could have been Low Flow or somebody else there, but I'm sure somebody can kind of reach out and say, I'm the one to give you your name. But so Pitchfork came about and kind of wore that thing with a badge of honor. And so simple in the name, but it's something that I knew as me branded with the name, but it could have went so many different directions. So
how did you know not to say the Noodle thing? Because that would have been, you're right, you're absolutely right. But did your brother kind of clue you in, or did somebody,
he kind of said, they're going to go out different names. And I think he even told me, because I was part of with a friend who did this at this barbecue team, and I wanted to say smoked meats too, and then those guys just wanted to eat that up, and so he kind of leaned in a little bit, but then your mind goes in different directions when you're trying to give your background, and then also try to be a little apprehensive of what you say because that could go into in your name as well. But
Yeah.
And we have lots of guys that only post once, right? I mean that we have FNGs that a lot of times they get really cool names and they don't come back. So what was it that brought you back to your second workout and kept coming back?
Yeah. So I think it was later. I think I posted on Saturday. I think Sunday, my wife was at church and talked to Mother Goose and kind of mentioned, hey, this guy's out for F3 now, and his ears perk up. And later that night, I get a text message. It's like, hey, Pitchfork, it's Mother Goose. I'll see you at the Trident on Tuesday. And I put the phone down. I look at my wife, and I was like, what did I get myself into? And I kind of sat back there, and I was like, Mother Goose, Trident. I'm just kind of overwhelmed, but. I mean, it's 5 blocks from my house. And so I'm like, okay, Tuesday's a good cadence. I can try that out there. And so I ended up at Trident on a Tuesday, and just one of those things that's A, it's convenient, B, I feel like I really kind of connect with all of those guys that first morning. Slow pitch threw out some inappropriate joke that really kind of, resonated with me. Canadian Bacon was kind of running alongside me. And so I feel like everyone's kind of embracing that new guy to the group. And it really took to it. So maybe jumping ahead, but I liked Trident so much that I think my brother signed up for a VQ a couple weeks after I joined. And so he texted me, he's like, hey, I get this VQ coming up. I'm going to be in this workout. It's on this Tuesday. And I kind of bluntly, looking back, regret it now, but I was like, oh no, I'm good. I found this home at Trident on Tuesday. I'm going to try to go there again. And didn't really know that was a big, important thing. I mean, part of it was he wanted me to do a practice with him one morning at Papillion.
Yeah.
And so we went over there. He didn't show up that morning.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, I tried to help you and do some things. But again, looking back, I didn't know how important VQ was. And I was like, no, once I get comfortable with something, I want to see it through. And so I think I can honestly say about going on 2.5 years, I think I missed Trident maybe 5 to 6 times.
Oh, wow.
And so it's one of those things, maybe a little bit more than that, but yeah, I would say at least on under 10 times I've missed Trident.
Did your brother come to your VQ though?
He did.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. He made sure to tell me about that too. So,
I was going to say, you probably heard about it.
Yeah. But I did make his flag pass. I made other cues he's made. We've co-queued together for our birthdays and some other things
That's
too.
great.
But yeah, that one time is not gonna let it slide.
Yeah. Well, you only get one VQ.
One VQ.
Oh, I love it. That's so funny. I am curious, maybe kind of give us some of the history or background, like what's been the dynamic with like physical exercise or activity throughout your life? Have you been a sports guy or been active, or what's that been like? Or has F3 kind of been your first?
Yeah. So I grew up in a small town south of Kearney called Axtell. And so it's just one of those Class D schools that you kind of be able to do every single sport you want to do. And so at an early age, I think we're pretty active. We did all the, 90s summer kid. We're outside playing all the time and pick up games. So there's, a number of other kids around our age in our neighborhoods. We play football quite a bit, tried to really emulate Nebraska football back in the day. So everyone had their, player they wanted to be. And so they just something we did naturally growing up. And then all of a sudden, junior high hits, you start to really kind of take on sports a little more seriously. And things really never excel too much until really high school. That's what's a little more committed and competitive. And so I was able to do, 3 sports every year in high school and kind of really found that passion of team sports. So part of football, so you're part of a team, but then also did wrestling as well. And that's kind of more of an individual sports and, cutting weight, all those things kind of really makes you comfortable in the uncomfortable. And that's kind of been my mantra through F3 and through kind of some of those hard workouts, either A in high school or B after that. But I would say after high school, really didn't seek anything after high school. I'd love to say I had all these scholarships and stuff for small schools, but yeah, it wasn't there. But after that, it was just kind of more just rec stuff. I tried to really jump into, a good workout regimen. We're going to the gym at the university or privately, but nothing really stuck. All throughout those years, you have a good run for 6 months. So really just kind of active through sports and school and then just, trying to stay fit. But until F3. And then I think this is probably the longest I've stayed committed to a workout and exercise. Cause I think it's kind of that you have that, commitment to others to kind of show up. I think if you're just on my own to kind of show up and do something all the time, I kind of really pride myself on, not really pride myself, I really need to lean on others to kind of help feed that workout and kind of commit to doing something with others.
Oh. What so it sounds like as you've gotten into F3 you've been able to be more consistent. I'm curious so we have all these different types of workouts, right? And I guess Trident's maybe more of like a string of pearls, and then obviously you've got things like Mount O and that are different. Where did you kind of find your groove, or where do you like to go? It sounds like Trident, but do you make it to Mount O often, because those two sites are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum?
Yeah. I would say I kind of sprinkle it in. So
Yeah.
take a step back. So my wife does FIA, and she has Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays committed. So really, I was
Oh.
at like Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Yeah.
And so I kind of a little bit short sighted on what sites I kind of pick. And so Trident just close there by nature. And so that was something easy. Golden Spike tended to be kind of a regular spot for me on the proximity, and then the Friday
Mhm.
spot. But I always had that openness to kind of go to other sites. So Paradise was something I attended quite a
Mhm.
bit, as well as Mount Olympus. But my first coupon workout was just, it was ridiculous. I think it was an IPC challenge workout.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was snowing out. There was snow on the field. And I literally was contemplating, how do I get to my phone, or how does somebody get to their phone to call for an ambulance?
Mm.
Like, I was just short of breath. I was
Yeah.
just dead, and it was cold out. And so that was my first experience with a coupon. And I don't think I was quite sold on the coupon. I just know I needed to do it because he did multiple ones before and kind of set the bar for, what an accelerated workout looks like. And so I did that, and I didn't come back for probably a good 6 months. And then he,
Mhm.
took the flag eventually, and I went probably back, probably once a quarter. I went over there and did a workout.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to do a coupon workout. I think it's kind of a good base. I think in F3 we aren't doing much weight training. I think it's just a lot of
Yeah.
high intensity training, a lot of cardio work. And so I've always tried to kind of mix in a little bit of some of the weight training. And my shoulders are a little sore from carrying on those coupons here this week. So,
Yeah.
but I think, yeah, that workout. But then I've really found the pre runs kind of my MO now.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd be one of those guys that run. I think, you hear people talk about F3, I think sometimes I make the mistake of telling them, yeah, we do these workouts early. And then sometimes I show up and run 3 miles early. And then people's eyes kind of roll back. They're like, you wake up and run 3 miles, then work out?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I was that same guy. I think you may have been with me, Gator, at a Paradise, where I finally decided I'm going to do a pre-run at Trident.
Mm.
And I think it's Vandalane running. And I mean, that last Hill Pacific, I just kept walking, running. And then we did a String of Pearl workout. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go to Paradise. And I did a pre-run at Paradise, and then we did the same thing afterward too.
Yeah.
And I was just hurt. It was a cold day. I had just nothing but cotton on, didn't really know how to layer appropriately. And
Mm.
it was probably one of the worst runs I've ever had in my entire life. But, we're at that bottom, you can only go one direction after that. And
Yeah.
stay committed. And now I feel like I pre-run 90% of the time before a workout, and like I need that run in miles in
Yeah.
before I can get a good workout in.
That's awesome. It's so cool to just hear all the different ways guys can progress, and kind of in a path that works for their body style and their fitness needs. I would be curious, as you think about, because how many years have you been in F3 now?
2.5.
2.5. So as you think about that 2.5 years, did you have goals in mind that you were trying to hit? Like, were you trying to lose weight or gain muscle, and have you achieved those, or what's been your kind of progress?
Yeah, I mean, really, nothing coming in for goal perspective. I think
Mhm.
A was just let's just give this a try and see where it kind of takes me.
Yep.
And then slowly on, I think it was all right. I wanted to keep up with some other people that were pretty
Yeah.
athletic, kind of running arounds. Second goal was I wanted to get back into running. I did a half previously, but I didn't train very well for it. It was not great of a half. And so I think that was I think it was more incremental goals. It wasn't like big picture goals. Like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm going to take on running. Now I start doing free runs. Well, let's see if I can kind of increase my time for runs.
Mm-hmm.
And then, really, I mean, still to this day, I don't really have a specific goal for weight loss or strength or things like that. I think just biggest thing, just being consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Showing up a couple times a week. In my mind, 3 times a week is what I can kind of really
Yeah.
handle. And if I can kind of get at least between 2 and 3 a week, that's my goal.
Yep.
Um,
When I've tried to sell guys on F3, I'm not a good EHer. I'm just not my forte, but I've seen other guys that are good at it, and wait time's really good at it. And one of the times I remember somebody told me they were not in good enough shape to come to an F3 workout. And so I said, wait time, what do you say to people when they say that? And he said, well, tell them that you don't get drunk before you go to the bar. That's what we're here for. We're here to get you in shape. So everybody can do it. So I'm curious, looking back on your experience, and thinking about how long you knew about F3 beforehand. I think you said it was about 1.5 years that you had heard about it and understood a lot about what the workouts were. What do you think is a good message to tell guys that are maybe a little bit intimidated by the workouts? What's a good EH message?
Yeah. I mean, I try to see what a good sales pitch is, but I think sometimes there could be that's a great message of saying, I think we have to have some of that things in the back of our mind, but I think sometimes it's a little individualized too. I think you kind of have to know the person pretty well. And instead of telling them that you need to do this, kind of ask like some background good questions ahead of time. Like, what are you doing for workouts? Why aren't you working out? What's your apprehension from working out early? And so I found that's kind of been a little bit helpful taking a step back. I talked to a guy this last weekend that actually did come out. So Sweet Roll, we need to get on the case for Dan Freaky to come out again. So came out one time and hasn't come out since then. But I was going to ask him, well, why don't you come out? He's like, well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I'm just busy in the mornings and, it was a hard workout, but I assume they're not all like that. And I kind of said, they're not all like that. They're not all intense. You don't have to run. It's really just, I like just that camaraderie of getting together with a bunch of men in the morning. So it's almost like, if we had a coffee club, except it's kind of like a recess session of coffee club. And so I've been a little more gentle on that whole introduction to F3 and not bringing up the whole running thing, not the whole thing of any other intense workouts. It's pretty much, Low Flow said this other day, it said just, recess for adults. We'll go out and have fun, kind of be, goofy in the mornings, and people kind of take that and make of what they will of it. But Gator, don't be so hard on yourself. You're the one who actually got me signed up for my VQ. Remember that over at
I do remember at coffee. Yeah.
So you can persuade and influence. Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
some juries would disagree with you, but thank you.
It's so cool to just hear, again, all the different ways. And I think everybody comes into it with different goals or different things that they're trying to get out of it. It sounds like you kind of, as you came in, you were maybe like, were you going where Jackson 5 was going? Or like, how did you kind of get to that point where you're like, no, I'm just going to go do my own thing? Or was that natural for you because of where you guys live?
Yeah. So I think he lived over closer to like 160th the Pacific. And I think we went to a couple sites over there. I don't know which specific ones. I think he went to maybe Oracle and maybe another site over there. But eventually he moved down to Papillion. And so, as much as I'd love to say I want to go meet up with them, I think, creature of habit and convenience really kind of won over versus kind of getting out with him. So I kind of found my way over to some of those sites, a little bit different, but I always like to kind of have that opportunity to run with them because it's always that twin kind of benchmark. He told me about some of the coupon workouts he did. Now he says he does them pretty consistently. And then now he's talking about pre-running. And I'm like, well, shit, if he does that, I feel like I need to kind of, lean into it a little bit better and see if I can kind of keep up with him a little bit. So I wouldn't say it's a competitive thing. It's just one of those things. If he can do it, I know I can do it.
Right.
And so you kind of hear from a distance he's doing these things. And so I kind of said, well, instead of maybe jumping in and starting running with him, I'll kind of do my own thing. And now I feel like we're at a same level workouts until I hear that they do these 5Ks with coupons.
Right.
And then the triple merves and things like that. I'm like, okay, well, maybe let's set the bar realistic for myself and what I can kind of do and kind of go from there.
What does the second F look like for you? With you're a pre-runner and you get a lot of second F time that way. I know I've had coffee with you many times. So I know you make the time for that too. And then it just sounds like you had a lot of relationships with guys before they joined F3. So you kind of knew, a number of people. But what's that second F perspective look like when it comes to accountability, vulnerability, getting to know guys and really accelerating in that area?
Yeah. I think, initially early on, I can come across as kind of a quiet person. I feel like I'm always trying to read people, read the room, don't want to jump in too soon, say something, stupid. And so I feel like those first couple coffees was just kind of just sitting back and listening. You got a guy like Roadhouse that can kind of, really set a scene for a conversation. But then I felt that early on, you have those one-on-one conversations where you can kind of be, genuine with people.
Yeah.
I think it's peer led, but it's also peer inspired. I think there's nobody that really has a hierarchy in F3. And so I think at coffee, you can really sit side by side with somebody and kind of ask how their day was and kind of have just a good conversation with a perfect stranger. And that person's just as engaged your conversation as you are with theirs.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of motivating. And over time, you get to know people pretty well. You can kind of find your voice in a conversation with a group, and that kind of becomes pretty fulfilling. And then you take that next step and you go to a new site, and you get invited to a new site with new people. And again, it's almost one of those things you're kind of forced to get out of your comfort zone to kind of really get to know another person. And F3 has been fantastic. You sit down by a table and people are just eager to kind of know your story.
Yeah.
Where do you work out at? Some of those kind of low lying fruit or low hanging fruit questions, like where do you work out at? And then eventually kind of blossoms into really kind of knowing you as a person.
Mhm.
And that's kind of everywhere I've been workout wise, either during the workout or during after the workout. And then you finally get opportunities to kind of see those individuals kind of in the wild, and that really kind of changes your perspective of that individual. You see them obviously, okay, they're a sweaty, smelly person in the morning, but they're a different person, a husband,
Yeah.
an employee, employer,
Yeah.
and different perspectives. So
You got to watch out for those hugs from guys like Cheap Seats and Cherry Garcia. They get you
man.
sweaty.
oh yeah,
I'm so glad you didn't mention me in that. I'm always worried about how I smell, which is weird. And like, who cares how I smell in the gloom?
Well, you very kindly change your shirts from time to time, so we
Yeah.
appreciate it. We notice.
I'm curious. One of the things that I've heard, like, kind of both sides of this, right? Like, if you talk to, Slow Pitch, Bubbles, Tater, like, the gloom has totally been sticky for them as brothers, right? But I don't know, with like the twin
Oh yeah.
dynamic, has it made you guys closer, or just given you additional like ammo to compete at like the family picnic every year? Or I don't know, like what's that done for your relationship with your
They
brother?
don't go to twin conventions together.
I'm sorry.
we have before, and we are I think 2-0, and everyone we've been to, we've won.
The
Not anything recent.
Twin convention.
Twin conventions.
Okay.
Yeah, years ago when we were like early elementary, Dad has entered us in a couple twin conventions, and I think we're 2-0 in those. So there's a ribbon somewhere and a picture somewhere,
Wow.
but it's it's something banner I can hang.
And this is
or-
for like the best looking, or the like how did
well, I mean that goes without
Obviously.
saying.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
You just made Plague say over here.
pre-balding stage, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, really, we probably talk more than we have in the past. I think, we
Yeah.
always had a pretty tight relationship, but it's one of those things we can kind of call each other on a weekly basis. And a lot of our conversations driven around where'd you work out this week? Who'd you talk to this week? And,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where we can kind of connect with on a different level.
Yeah.
I think especially when we were site queues together, we had an overlap time. We're both site queues.
Yeah.
I think we both had those same aversions to, how can we be a better version of a site queue? Some troubles we're having. So really, it's some of that person you kind of really lean on personally, outside of just another PAX member out there. You can kind of ask those questions, be a little more vulnerable with him on what you're going through. But yeah, I would say that's usually 50% conversation we have together. Just something we have that kind of that bond over and talk with. And again, it's helped kind of grow. And again, I've seen him kind of excel and kind of that mentality for himself, really kind of push himself. And I know hopefully he's kind of seen that in myself as well. So
Do you call each other by your F3 names, or do you still call by your birth name?
well, I don't think we really call each other
You
names
just,
at all.
Hey,
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Hey, yeah. It's a good question though, because a lot of people always have these conversations with me, their M's, what do they really call ourselves by? And so, but it's the same thing with the FIA format too, where it's all just different names, so they get it. But eventually, she's just like, "What are their real names?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
And I was curious. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your other relationships outside of F3. With your wife doing FIA. It sounds like you guys split up the week and have a lot of communication about and that's supporting each other to do that. So how is both of you doing these early morning workouts and making those relationships and growing and challenging? How has that affected your relationship? How has it improved?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge advantage. It's a huge kind of growth in our communication. And I think she did a little bit of fitness here and there. I mean, she was always active, just played sports, things like that, but nothing real consistent for
Mhm.
workouts. But yeah, I mean, now it's something we can connect with on a whole different level. Every time I come back from my workout, she always asks something silly, but it's kind of endearing. She's always like, "Oh, how was your workout?" And I said, "Oh, it was great." And she's like, "Oh, did you see anybody you knew?" Always says that. And I'm just like, I always have to say it back and to not be, too short and be like, well, of course, I know everyone. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I should answer that with who did I meet new versus that. But yes, I mean, she
Yeah.
cues quite a bit. And so I think we're always kind of bouncing ideas off on cues, and their cues are different from ours, but relatively the same in a way. And so I think I always kind of bounce ideas off her. We'll even have our kids sometimes like do a mock run of our workouts.
Nice.
And so like, all right, I'm trying this new kind of funky, different movement pattern. I want to have the kids try it. And so they'll jump in and do it. But yeah, so I'll steal
Yeah.
some workouts from her on occasions. And she won't actually probably use as much as mine I use from hers, but she's a lot more creative than I am.
Yeah.
I think for us, it's just, do 3 or 4 things multiple times. And they have this whole setup where it's, synced every 30 seconds, the whole workout. And, just like our family calendar, I have
Yeah.
one thing I look at and put on there, and she has everything itemized out, a little more organized, but
Yeah.
that's just personality set. But yeah, it's been fantastic and something that we're obviously able to bond over, that we both have a mutual connection with. you know I'd have no idea on where to begin with Pinterest, but if it's workouts and things like that, I'm your man.
Yeah. It's so cool, right? Because it's kind of this like intimate layer of our lives, right? We build relationships, help us with accountability, we're being vulnerable. And for many of us, it's like I can't even begin to explain to my what F3 even is, right? Like it's and so to have your wife doing FIA, I think she gets it without you having to like try to explain it,
Yeah.
and I can only imagine how helpful that is. Would be curious. Tell us a little bit about your family. So how many kids you have? Have you gotten them out to a workout, and what do they think of this kind of dad recess thing that you do?
Yeah. So yeah, I have 3 kids. I have Clara that's 9, be 10 next month. Lewis that's 7, and Penelope that will be 4 as well. So 3 kids. And so I've gotten, and again, maybe have some clarification from you guys on this, but so my daughter went out to FIA, and her favorite number was 8, and so they called her Affinity, and she loves that name. That's kind of her
Mm.
thing for the Infinity Sideways 8 there. For
Yeah.
who out there doesn't know about that. But my son did go for a workout with her, and they give him the name Raptor.
Huh.
And so I'm like, does that still count for F3? Because he been out one time with us for 2.0 at the Rabbit Hole, and he loves Raptor, and so he said that for the call. So I'll have to get some clarification on that if that counts.
It's interesting. There may be like a coming of age, like when he's 18, then he's eligible for a new, F3 like men's nickname. I don't know, but
Yeah.
if he likes the name, and
Yeah.
I imagine that, but I don't know. I
Yeah,
have to check
no,
the rule book on that.
Yeah, I mean, precedent is often, can be a rule. So I can just tell you that, Mufasa's son was Marvel for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And then my son, Sharknado, was actually having his VQ at the Rabbit Hole. And Marvel was there, and he had sort of grown out of the name Marvel, didn't really like it anymore. So my son renamed him Cheesesteak. So if that's a precedent, I think you can go with that.
Yeah.
All right. That's Mufasa versus who?
Yeah.
That precedent.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I think there's even a while back where, flipping through Twitter, and you kind of watch some of the post workout name calls. And so the kids are like that. They love to watch those on occasions. And then they wanted to do that in the house a couple times too, and say their names and everything like that. So they've really kind of been attached to that. So yeah, I've got the kids out a couple times. My daughter really excelled at one of these workouts where I think Frosty did one of the miles where he did like every extras every 100, and then you do extras every 200, and then lap. Well, my daughter was up there with the top groups by herself, just excelling and taking off.
Nice.
My son said his legs hurt, so I wanted to piggyback ride the whole workout. So
So then you got a really good workout.
I got a really good workout, and I know who to bring next time and who not to bring.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. That's been my experience too. The 2.0s. Although as they get older, I think I gotta ask mine again, because my oldest is 10, and I haven't taken her since she was 3. So, I am curious as you think about that, because we talked a little bit about running, a little bit about coffee, but Other second F things, like curious if you've ever done Q source or if you've gotten yourself into shield lock or anything like that throughout your journey in F3.
Yeah. Never ran a Q source, but I've been to multiple Q sources as well. And it's one of those things that you're like, do you have time for this? But you're
Mm.
always so happy once you go to that. There's so many things you can kind of take away from it as well.
Yeah.
Again, one of those things, first couple Q sources, you kind of sat in the back of the room, kind of listened and absorb things. And eventually you get a little more confident and you can kind of at least give some experiences. Again, I feel like on the surface, I don't bring much to the table, but then you talk to people afterward, like, no, no, no. Everyone's different perspectives on how things are.
Yeah.
Um, Shield lock, I mean, I really didn't know too much about what shield lock was for a while. I kind of grown into obviously know what it was. I don't think we have a specific shield lock. I mean, I want to say Trident can kind of be a little bit of a, you
Mhm.
know, impromptu shield lock. I think my brother and I kind of together can kind of build a bit of shield lock on
Yeah.
accountability and talking to each other. But yeah, I've never really kind of found a group of people specific that we kind of get with and kind of hold
Mhm.
each other accountable. But I feel like the sites I go to, you kind of talk to guys like, hey, I haven't seen you around for a while, and kind of get on your case if they haven't seen you around. So
Yeah, and you mentioned Trident a couple of times. I want to talk to you about your PsyQ tenure there, and I know that the people that go there, you're right about it. It's a special place. A lot of guys have been going there for a long time, and that's really when they get to see each other. So tell us what it was like for you to take the flag there, and what your if you had any concerns or challenges with being willing to do that, and then what was it like to lead there?
yeah. So timeline wise, I believe I started December 17th or something around there, mid-December. And so just kind of get my feet wet with F3. And, I think I'm 3 months in being like, okay, I got this, went to a couple of sites, met a couple guys. And then I get a text message from Kielbasa, kind of explaining, hey, um, site Q, it's going to be done here soon. I think you'd be a great
Mm.
fit. You're consistent at Trident. And I kind of thought that, and I think emotions went opposite spectrum. Wow, what an honor to be able to be a site Q here. And then the second, reality kicks in. That's a lot of work, or that's a
Mm.
that's a big endeavor to take on for F3. And so, I mean, I thought about it for probably a good 2-3 weeks. Kept getting back to him, touch points like, hey, I'm still thinking about it, considering it, talking to other guys about it. And, really nobody really dissuaded me from that. They weren't
Mm.
like, oh, yeah, it's a dumb decision. You have to do it. They were like, well, you'd be a great fit. You're always at Trident. And so I told him, and I took over the queue in 4 months from starting F3.
Mm.
And so at least I got my VQ done in 6 weeks. And then I took over the flag. And I think everyone maybe has a little bit of kind of that thought process. They're really not, imposter syndrome. Like I'm not, set for this. I think my worry was I don't know enough people in F3 to get a whole year set up. In my mind, I'm thinking, quantitative. That's 52 times I have to find somebody to queue, and it gets a little endearing. But just like anything in life, small bites.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I took over the queue. I think they had a good 6 weeks kind of built in.
Hmm.
And then really it's kind of like, all right, well, you've already taken it. There's no going back.
Yeah.
So you can either sink or swim. And really, I think you kind of take on some of that, I'm in sales. So it's almost like you're kind of trying to sail
Hmm.
to individuals. You're going around there kind of networking, you're getting to know people, and it's fun just to get to know people at other sites. And then slowly, you start to build up a calendar of people. You get some new people over the site. Obviously, it's helping know my brother from Sarpy, and he had some good connections over there. And so I kind of brought some people, different sectors, over to our place. And then before you knew it, it's November,
Hmm.
and I have things filled up, and everything's running, on full steam ahead. And I look back, and those, it's a little, felt sorry those first 3 months and just how anxious I was on not really fulfilling
Mm.
that legacy of Trident.
Mm.
Because, again, you see those guys there consistently. You just want to kind of keep things up. And there's things I probably would have changed a little bit, but really in the end, as long as you show up every week, kind of show people that you're willing to put the commitment into that site, and kind of be a face that everyone kind of recognize every week, everything else kind of run its course. And it's, something it's not going to fail because of me.
Mm. For guys that don't know, as a former site Q at Trident, what's the deal with the Namorama there?
There's a lot of different stories. I think one story could be the fact that somebody's camera was broken one day.
Oh,
And so the guy went to do a picture and it wasn't working. So we had to reverse things up. And so, Trident's famous for a selfie Namorama.
yeah.
I think we've gotten a couple times around where we did the Namorama and we realized we have to redo it because it was in the selfie mode.
Oh,
And, room service, he took over. Here's quick to make that a point for every new person to come in there. People are like, okay, they get the camera out, they would show it, and then everyone's to stop. Oh, it's a selfie Namorama.
yeah.
And then they have to think for a second, and then they turn it around. And so it's a nice little quirk over there, too. So just like any urban legend, I feel like we can kind of come up with some other different stories of what
Yeah.
that looks like. But
In keeping with the Trident lore, just keeping it weird.
Yeah.
Keep- yeah, true.
We'll
True.
have to
Keep
go
it
back.
weird.
I wonder if Slick or who would have been the first guy we interviewed that we would have asked about that. We'll have to go back and
I think it was
see if
Slick.
the legend
Yeah.
holds.
I think Slick's the one that had the broken phone.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's so much fun, right? Because every site gets to kind of have their own identity and do fun things like that, right? I would be curious as you think about leadership and succession planning. What was that process like for you? I know a lot of guys are like, that's not always easy, and maybe comes up that year goes by faster than
Yeah.
most of us expected to. But
Yeah, because I think Tom took over right after he did the Golden Spike, and so we'd be on runs together and always have
Mhm.
that question like, "What are you thinking for succession? What does that look like?" And there's the easy answer is just a warm body to get in there and take this flag that I can be done with. But then
Yeah.
again, you're like, okay, I want somebody that's consistently there at Trident. The one that people kind of really look up to that has, I think, just a great personality. I think you look back at the history of people there. Everyone has a great sense of humor. Somebody walk in a room with a bunch of strangers and really kind of light that room up.
Mhm.
And room service was somebody that was in the back of my mind. I had like 2 or 3 guys in my mind to kind of bring up conversations. I would ask them. I was kind of testing the waters and they're a little tepid. And so finally talking to room service, and I think it was just direct. I think we were just talking one day. I was like, "Hey, what do you think about taking over this flag?"
Mhm.
And I don't think he really thought about it. He's like, "Oh, sure, okay."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." I think he said he did a half a year over at Oracle, and he's like,
Yeah,
"I only
right.
did half a year," so maybe he thought, to kind of right the ship on that half year he missed that he'd take
Yeah.
over. But yeah, he had no apprehensions. I had no fears for him taking it over. Granted, I always give him crap because the first 3 or 4 weeks after he took it over, he had to travel for work, and so I had to
Yeah.
carry that flag in my car
Yeah.
week after week after that. But yeah, he settled in well, and I think it's your baby even after you pass it. I'd always be like that protective parent, always texting him, "Hey, how are things going? Are you finding able to kind of fill in the queue schedule?" I talked to a couple guys last week that said they queue for you, and he never did directly say like, "I got this." I just kind of got the hint that he has this, and then I
Yeah.
kind of back off and I kind of let him run it, and it gives me peace knowing that he is able to kind of manage that and take it on and run with it. And every week I showed up, it was just like I'd never left.
Mm.
And then, yeah, we just passed it already again to Skipper and the kind of same thing.
Yeah.
Again, I have no apprehension for him queuing. I talked to him the other day and I was like, "I'd love to jump on the queue again for you." And
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, yeah, we have some times in August." And I'm like, "Good. Have it filled up till then." And
That's awesome.
so, yeah, I'm happy how things have went and gone. And again, people always say Trident could be the running site, and I'm always arguing because that puts us in a box, and we're not that type of person. So
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's cool to just see, and somebody like room service who's been in F3 for a long time, had that sort of 6-month stint over at Oracle, and so giving him another chance to take a site that I think he's there pretty much every Tuesday.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
That's sort of
yeah,
his.
there's like 4 or 5 guys. That's pretty much their primary site they go to.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so
I love it. Well, talk to us a little bit. So we've kind of talked about fitness and fellowship and leadership, and thinking about that third F piece, and kind of what's your journey been like when you think about faith. Would love to hear kind of like even growing up, like what was that like? Was that part of your life, and then how has that maybe changed as you've gotten older and come into F3?
yeah. So growing up in the small town, like any other small town, I think there's like 4 denominations there. But yeah, I
Yeah.
grew up Lutheran. and went through confirmation, 8th grade, all that type of thing. Went through the motions, had some youth group experience. Kind of committed myself to Jesus early on, but it was one of those things that all right, I committed, but I really had no direction on what those next steps were. Never really dove in deep to the surface of kind of religions.
Yeah.
College comes, I think there's a lot of us guys can kind of really look back in those summer lives and probably count on one hand or two hands the amount of times I went to a church service in college.
Mm.
And when I did meet my wife, she's from Omaha. She grew up Catholic, and it's one of those things where, as I met her, it was kind of one of those things. If we're in town on a Sunday, we have to go to mass with her family, and so we ended up going to mass a couple times. And so I was like, oh, this is kind of a nice, service. It's very simple, kind of like just the whole beauty of the formation and everything. It was very similar to the Lutheran religion as well. And um, we ended up getting engaged. And then in that process, kind of thought, well, if we're going to start a family, I kind of want to raise a family in kind of one single religion. So it wasn't like I was, steered one way or the next. And I just kind of want that unified um, message. And so I ended up going through RCA and then joining the Catholic Church here probably about 11, 12 years ago.
Mm.
And same thing. And then we started going to mass and everything else. But probably the last, 3, 4 years, started getting a little bit more in depth, started kind of meeting with a small men's group with Chip and Dale
Yeah.
and a couple other guys. We really kind of explored some of the ins and outs of the faith, kind of asking those big questions, able to kind of answer some of those questions are always kind of lingering. So I feel like I've grown in my relationship with God and Jesus probably the last number of years, a little more in depth. It kind of helps too when you have, young kids kind of asking some of those big questions too, and you're kind of able to answer it fully.
Yeah.
And so our kids go to a Catholic school now. And so I kind of really like how it's able to kind of be ingrained in some of their day-to-day things that they're doing and having that opportunity to pray together. Even in those men's groups we have, there'll be opportunities for us to pray at the end. And again, I wasn't raising my hand to be able to pray to a group of guys that we would talk to consistently. But then at F3, you get the end of there and really there's no way around it. You can maybe default to some other guys here on occasions, but it's one of those things that, I was able to confidently enough able to pray in front of a group of men and it felt natural.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really kind of impressed with that on taking a step back, that I was comfortable with individuals professing my faith, leading a prayer, and kind of go in that direction. So I feel like that's really kind of helped me get out of that comfort zone of either prayer in public and then being a little more pronounced with it.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that you talked about growing up Lutheran and then now you're Catholic, and the Trident, is really that part of Omaha is well known because of you've got the different faith centers of worship there, and we're open to all men, and so I find it interesting that you have this spiritual home and then you have this site home in Trident. Could you talk about just what your faith journey has been like with sharing it with others and others in F3, and what kind of how that's opened your eyes to different viewpoints and being converting to Catholicism later in life. What's that been like?
Yeah. I think, I wear the badge of being a Catholic proudly, but then again, I found that everyone has, that type of higher power they look towards, and I'm not going to persuade one person to join one religion or another, as long as they have that peace that they have a higher power that they're kind of looking towards. I think there's been conversations with some other PAX members before too, where they're kind of unsure where their religion is at. And I'm always one of those guys. It's, it's an open door. If you ever have questions or, ask, have difficult conversations or kind of, anything you want to lean into for that direction, I'm happy to go that direction. But yeah, I mean, I've had, there'd be bits and pieces here along the way where people can ask questions on, what's your religion? And it hasn't gotten too in depth. It's never gotten hostile. It's always been kind of just a curiosity type of thing. I think that's good for people to have that openness to ask those either questions or big picture things and why you believe something you do. And really, it's never out of trying to question the faith. It's almost like just tell me what your experience is, what you're kind of going through. And I think that's kind of the same thing with F3 too. I mean, we're all kind of different walks of life. I think we'd be kind of shaming the name and ourselves by kind of holding one faction over the other and kind of saying
Yeah.
somebody's superior to the other, just like if somebody's profession is different than the other and kind of looking down upon that. So I'm open to anybody's faith and where they're brought up, because really that's kind of their um their identity
Hmm.
and how they kind of really kind of relate to the big picture of themselves. So I don't want to, yeah, be that determining factor.
You know, it's funny. I was reading through Free to Lead again just in my spare time, no, as part of a book study. But in the chapter on faith, they talk about, like, some guys were like, "Oh, it's not Christian enough," and they are basically like, "Well, if we'd have to change it couldn't be F3, it'd have to be like F2C or something." And just like this funny, like, Dredd and OBT kind of joking about, like, just what you just said, right? The reason it's not F2C is because we're really intentional about this faith piece not being a specific religion, right? That is what you said about every guy recognizing he's not the king of the world, and we need to have a higher power, but not prescribing what that is for everybody. So
Yeah.
I love how you
And
said
it's a
that.
little bit of a selling power too for F3. You
Yeah.
kind of say it's morning recess, but then again, it's kind of faith based too.
Yep.
And that really kind of resonates with some individuals
Yep.
as well. I know I told a mentor of mine that about F3, and he kind of referenced it. Oh yeah, what's that that church workout group you guys are a part of? And so that's the way he identifies F3 is the
Yeah.
faith thing, and I'm proud of it. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things that afterward, because he's like, there's fitness, fellowship, and then faith.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's a factor in there, just like the same thing with the fellowship and the fitness. They're all, individual for everyone. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always liked what I think it was Cosmo that said that he thought it was the burpees for Jesus group.
Yeah. Yeah. Curious. So first of all, thank you. Right. Like, just being able to hear and unpack your story is just, it's so impactful. And I know other guys will be impacted. I am curious, as you think about your life, are there any key moments, failures, lessons, any of those types of things that you feel like other guys might be able to learn from as you think about your life and your journey? What are some of those things that you would be willing to share that other guys could kind of take away? And
yeah, I think two things. One, I think I can reference this already, is just kind of being comfortable and then comfortable.
Mhm.
For me, it was new experiences.
Yep.
And so it's go to F3, not know what to kind of accept. You kind of, you go to that thing not knowing, and then something I loved in doing. So I take that as a reflection for other things in my life. There's some things that I don't want to do, but I kind of force myself to do it because I know that it's more of a apprehension, and it's going to better myself.
Mhm.
And so then another one is kind of modified. And so instead of beware what you wish for, prepare for what you wish for.
Hmm.
Because I think sometimes, there's a lot of things in life and personally that, there's things I wish for, and then all of a sudden you get, and you're kind of like, oh crap, I didn't expect this to happen now. And so
Yeah.
instead of beware of it, prepare for it. So, there's some things in life that you want to either work out success, uh, work other different identities, then prepare what you wish for. Because once you get it, you have to kind of own it
Yeah.
and kind of embrace it as well. So,
Hmm.
same thing with site Q. Is like, oh yeah, that'd be fun to be a site Q. And then once I'm doing it, I'm like, well, I better get prepared for this.
Yeah.
I had some changes at work as well, and something I always wanted to kind of change into this different role, and now I'm in this role, and sometimes I'll find myself kind of biting my tongue on I'm having to do all these new things, but I'm like truly looking back, I wanted this,
Yeah.
so I gotta get
That's
better at kind of taking that leadership. So
That's really, really good. You just made me think of all the times that I've asked for something and then pissed off when it happened. So I think that's really, really good.
Yeah.
Good reminder of that, right? Like, are we prepared for what we wish for? And my problem is it never happens the exact way that I think it should, and so then I argue with God about his ideas, and his plans are always better than mine. But anyway, other thing that I'm thinking of is just, as you think about your story, is there anything that you didn't get a chance to share that maybe you would want to share?
no, I think when you're looking back at family, yeah, I mean, I have this great support circle with my Am and my brother, and obviously adopted PAX members.
Yeah.
It's just that I think we kind of festered on the whole Trident thing, but that's kind of my identity, and I'm proud to speak about that. But yeah, I mean, there's been so many men along the journey that I've been kind of proud to work out with, and I think there's some things second F2 that I want to strive to be more involved in as well for volunteering events and things like that. I think it's short-sighted to say I'm busy with kid stuff and I can't do that,
Yeah.
but I think that's something that I truly would like to kind of jump in more and embrace as the opportunity presents itself. But No, I appreciate the opportunity to kind of share my story. And there's again so many people out there to kind of reference and talk about. And we can probably go on another hour, but I know you're kind of capped
Yeah.
by time, and
Yeah.
I'll keep rambling off and give me the opportunity. But yeah, in the end, yeah, it's been a amazing trip these last 2.5 years, and I don't see it changing course at all.
Heck yeah.
Thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah. Final question for you here, where we'd like to really wrap up is just where do you need prayers, support, encouragement? If guys are listening, what's something they can maybe check in and help support you on?
Yeah. So had a grandpa that's been in the hospital here the last couple of days, and so he's had some recurring health issues, and so again, just some immediate prayers for him. Um, Otherwise, kind of big picture wise, I think everyone should kind of ask for prayers for themselves. I think we're always looking for prayers for other people, and I think it's important to kind of ask for prayers for yourself instead of putting other people first and foremost. Kind of look at in the mirror. So again, I always ask for that, and then I think just the confidence to kind of actually. That's all I have. So
Okay.
really, nothing big picture. I think I can go in these other different tangents, but yeah, nothing else going on. So
I love it. I'll definitely be praying for family. And, I think it's so cool, right? Because every guy's story is relatable and yours is no different. So just thanks again for taking time to share. We'll do a little Namo, wrap us up
You
here.
gonna do a selfie, Namo, or?
I don't know. Well, the camera's already. I'll start us off here. Brandon Fleehardy, 40, the Plague.
The Plague.
Ah!
Mike Duffy, 43, Gator.
Gator, Chomp.
Bilko 41, Pitchfork.
Pitchfork.
And is there a sound? Do you do like a pitchfork sound or?
Does that?
Does that?
I like to do that. I like to do it this way. Yeah. You remember that one?
I don't. I'm not familiar with this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his name. He can do it however.
Yeah. And I found out that, that's what Arizona State
pre-delete Plague.
Yeah. Sun Devils does the
Pitchfork. Okay.
Pitchfork. And so, again, people just, can say it's other things, but you know what? I'll stay true to that.
I think mine's actually a gang sign, so apologies.
We'll edit that out. Thanks for your time, brother. This is great.
On our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, every man's got a story. We've been broken, we've been bruised, but we rise again and we don't get to choose. Through the fire, through the fight, every man's story burns in the night. Scars on our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. On a story to tell, from the valley low to the mountaintop yell. Every man's got a story inside. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop hill. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, every man's got a story. Every man's got a story. Voices rise like thunder, they roll. Truth in the pain, it's shaping the soul. Chains may rattle, but they break in time. Every man's story is yours and mine. From the struggle to the glory, every man's got a story. In the dark or in the light, we keep marching through the night. Every man's got a story inside. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop hill.